I'm here with former Ferals star Mal Heap, who is best known for playing Modicliana, the cat, on the Ferals. So, Mal, what inspired you to enter show business?
I started doing puppets with a mate from church. We were doing shows for churches up and down New South Wales, sort of North Shore area, and then the Muppets came on telly, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool.
Because I was going to say, was your mate Jim Henson by any chance?
No, I didn't actually get to meet Jim. Sadly, Jim had passed away, but I have met his son, Brian. Been lucky enough to go over to LA and onto the studios that they have there, and I went to New York, Sesame Street as well, so we got a bit of a tour around the Sesame Street workshops in New York.
That sounds really awesome, because Sesame Street's probably like the biggest form of puppets that the world has.
It is, yeah. They certainly changed people's perception of what puppetry was when they brought it out.
It's funny you should say that, because I've actually, later in the interview, I've got a question which is relevant with that, with what you just said then. Anyway, so our next question is, what is it about the entertainment or the puppetry industry that you like the most?
I think one of the best things with being a puppeteer in television world is that it's not actually our faces that get put on the screen, so there doesn't tend to be I don't know, it's not the competitiveness. We have to help each other. You know, when you're doing a puppet, for example, I'm fortunate enough to do the Dolmio puppets at the moment, and so to one of those Dolmio puppets, you've actually got to have 3, sometimes 4 puppeteers helping you work the puppet. So, you know, you get to know each other, and because being a puppeteer, you're under a couch or hidden somewhere, you're in close proximity with each other. So you get to strike up a few more friendships, and I think that's what I enjoy about it the most. And you can still walk down the street and nobody knows who you are, which is even better.
I mean, yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about a bunch of cameramen like coming at you wanting pictures and all that.
No, there's not many puppeteers that I know that are up to that standard. Maybe Kevin Clash with Elmo was up there. But
you'd have to be probably like at his height of fame to do something like that.
Yeah, but many people didn't even know. If you showed someone a picture of Kevin, I think a few people would struggle to go, oh, yeah, I know who that is. So.
Exactly. I mean, there was an interview he actually had on Rove when Rove was going, and he actually said that, like, he was with his daughter in, like, a shop, and, like, he said to all, like, his daughter's mates, he's Elmo, and then he did the Elmo voice, and they're like, okay, I can do him better than that.
Yeah, it was a good impersonation. So, yes.
So, looking back now, when you were starting off your career, is there any regrets you had? Like, or is there anything like, if you could do it all again, is there anything you wish you had done differently?
No, the industry's one of those funny ones in that jobs seem to come up and fall into place, and there's a few jobs I thought, I wish I could have done that, but there's nothing I regret. I've been really fortunate. Puppets have literally taken me around the world. I did a big show for the Billy Graham Association for many years and travelled around for about 4 years around the world doing a massive big suit puppet for them. I've been around Australia many times, and I still tour. I've just come back from a UK tour with a friend. We were over there for 3 weeks doing shows. So, yeah, puppetry's taken me around the world, and it's been, I got to meet some fantastic people through it. So, no, I've got no regrets from missing out on anything I do.
What was your first big break?
The Ferals really was my first big break. I was working for a company, and we were trying to do our own TV show. And the ABC, Wendy Gray was the producer of the Ferals. She came to our company and was asking about puppeteers and puppetry. And at that point, I went along to help her out audition the puppeteers. And that was they were trying to find someone to do the voice of Moddy and Modicliana, and I was trying to get all these women puppeteers to do it, and I was giving ideas and thoughts on how the character should be, and sort of at the end of the first day of auditions, Wendy came up and said, look, would you like to do the audition for Moddy? And I went, Yeah, why not? I'll give it a go.
And, like, you did a remarkable job with Modicliana, the cat. And that sort of ties up my next question, because I was going to say your biggest work is the ferals. How did you land the role of Modicliana? But I think we just answered it then.
Yeah.
So what was it like to work on the ferals? And what was it that you liked about it?
The ferals was a unique time in television. I don't think we're going to get those sort of budgets for kids shows anymore, sadly.
I know.
It was how do I say this one nicely? The puppeteers, because we're not going to makeup and wardrobe and stuff, we get to sit around on set, and that's like, okay, we're going to do this shot, and the puppets, you go and put your puppets on, and you're straight on the set with the characters, and because we can see what the camera guys are shooting, because we're looking down on the monitor, we're able to help them a lot more, and we're able to work with the crew a lot more than normal actors are. And so when, we do a scene and they'd say, okay, that's a break, the actors would have to go and get changed in wardrobe and get new makeup touches up and all that. And we just sit around and we chat with the camera guys. And so it became this more of a, not an us and them thing, which a bit happens in television, but this was more of a, we're involved in this with the crew and we're able to work things out. And there was a real family feel with the ferals, and because we were sort of a groundbreaking program in that nothing like this had been really tried to do a sort of a real comedy, edgy program. I think it was TV Week described the ferals as Muppets on acid, which I think really described what it was. It was lots of fun to work on.
How big was the crew on the ferals?
Well, we always shot with 4 cameras, and we'd have a couple of camera assistants, and then there was usually 3 or 4 lighting guys. There was 3 or 4 soundies, technical producer, and then the director. I think all up, if you take everybody that worked on the show, because then there was the art department, there were the props people, there was probably around about 25, 30 people who worked on an episode.
Well, now the Ferals made 2 versions of the show. There was the original Ferals series, which lasted about 2 seasons, and there was also Feral TV, which was so awesome. Which series did you prefer out of those 2? Like, we're both working on and personally. Yeah,
it was interesting. I mean, Ferals was great because it was a half-hour program, and we had the actors there, and it really was fun to work on. They were a great bunch of actors to work with, and yeah, we did 2 series of that, and then they decided to go to the 5-minute versions, which was Feral TV, and I think I enjoyed some of the scripts a bit more with Feral TV because they were only 5 minutes, and so they had to be really punchy, and that was also when we got 2 new puppeteers came along, Sean and Adam.
I like how
they brought in.
I like how they took off the character of Kerry Packer at the time with that toad. That was hilarious.
Yeah, there was Kerry was very much a Kerry Packer type character, and Rodney the cockroach was sort of like the snivelling executives of the TV network as well, always doing what he said. So yeah, that was fun because there was a few other characters that got involved, and Keith, my other puppet from the Ferals, he got a few more little cameo roles, which was lots of fun to bring out as well.
I remember there was a particular episode of Feral TV which was particularly funny. It was how Radis made all these flea collars, and then it turns out they were Radis's underwear in the end.
Oh, right.
Do you remember that episode?
I don't quite remember all the episodes, because I think we did 2 series of Feral TV, and some of the ones I do remember, some I've sort of lost memory of over the years.
How long do you reckon it's been now since they made the Ferals?
The original Ferals was, I think it was 93, 94 was when we did that one. And then the 90, would that be 96, 97 then maybe for the Feral TV?
And then like they used the characters afterwards, ABC, for a couple of other shows like Creature Features and Numbers Count, I believe.
Yeah, so Radis and Moddy did a couple of numbers count episodes. The Mixie went on and did morning television for a while. She had
I remember that
the
show.
Mixie, and I got to do another puppet. I think Emma DeVries, who was the puppeteer for Mixie, Emma did Mixie in the morning for 5 years, I think it was. So she did 2 years by herself, and then I came and helped her out with Joe the Kangaroo for another 3 years.
Yeah.
And then Mixie was replaced, and the budget for her show actually went to Creature Features, which was where Moddy got to co-host the animal show, and that was lots of fun.
Yeah. It looked like a pretty good show at the time because I remember watching it.
Yeah, it was. They were trying to do an educational program that was still had that quirky sense of fun to it. So Moddy and Nick Hardcastle, he was the first host, we would go to all the different zoos or farms, and yeah, of course, Moddy also wanted to do was do a show about cats, and she thought anything else was a waste of time, especially if it was a story about dogs.
That would have to be probably the last thing that the Fells were ever associated with, wouldn't it?
Creature Features, yeah, that was the very last time. So there was a change in head of television in children's at the ABC. So when that happened, that was I think I did 5 series of Creature Features. So yeah, that was a good run for Moddy. That was for sure.
Do you still talk?
Probably had close to 10 years there.
Exactly. Do you still talk with many of your fellow co-stars?
Yeah, when we do the Dolmio commercials, we all tend to get together for that because that brings in quite a few puppeteers, and most of us will work on that. But Emma, who is Mixie, she lives sort of close to where I am at the moment, and David, who is Radis, he's moved to South Australia, and Sean, who was Kerry, the cane toad, his wife is a children's television producer. So she worked on High Five, but they're working out in Singapore at the moment, so I haven't seen them for a while. And then Terry, who did Darren, he's also Sydney-based, and he does a lot of directing of children's productions these days.
Do you see the Fells as our version of the Muppets, like as an Australian version?
I don't know if I'd say it was the Muppets. It was the Ferals was really unique for its time.
That's definitely
it had
for sure.
a really good fan base, and it's been interesting to see. The fact that I'm chatting to you now about the Ferals. That there was a group of kids that watched it and have now sort of grown up and are still reminiscing about how good it was and how much fun they had watching it. And, there's been Facebook pages with lots of fans joining up, and people still chat to me about it if they ask what I do. And you can usually judge how old somebody is by whether their ears prick up when you say you worked on the Ferals.
Well, yeah, I was a pretty young kid at the time when the Fells was on, and I used to be a massive fan of it, and Alain was too. And it was just, I'd love to see it on again personally. Do you think that would ever happen?
It could possibly end up on ABC3 at one stage or another, but I'm not. I don't hold my hopes up for it. There's a few people who have actually got. I think almost every episode now is online on Vimeo, or on YouTube. Some of the dedicated fans have got every episode up there. Maybe they could
do what the Muppets did and make a feature film as their comeback sort of thing after so long.
Yeah, it would be great. I think out of all the puppets, I've still got Moddy, and I think Emma still may have Mixie, but they're definitely not usable anymore. I've got Moddy's in storage in a special box because all the foam inside them sadly deteriorates after a number of years.
Well, the puppets themselves would actually probably be about 2 or 3 decades old by now.
Probably getting close to that. Yeah, Moddy's had a few reincarnations. She's been rebuilt a couple of times. But,
all right, my next question is, and it's probably like a unique question, but The Fells has been seen by a lot of people, and it's been dubbed by like a lot of people I know in society as a Gen X grungy show and a really big thing of the 90s. With the changing way of society and the way parents are evolving, do you think a show like The Fells could be popular in current times if they were to make it again? Do you reckon it would be as fashionably and like socially acceptable?
I don't think it'd be as cutting edge as it was back when it came on. I think it because there's a lot of shows that have evolved and I don't think it'd be as cutting edge as it was back when it came on. I think it because there's a lot of shows that have evolved in that way. Like I remember the very first time it went to air, we all sat and watched at the ABC when the show went to air, and I think within the first 2 minutes of the show happening, the episode was where Moddy got thrown out of the shed and she comes back in with a baseball bat, and then Radis flies out the door after being hit by the baseball bat, which you don't actually see him getting hit, but apparently the phones ran hot very quickly, and there was a number of complaints about this violence on the ABC. Whereas, you look at something today and that happens a fair bit. There's a bit more of that sort of violence, that slapstick violence and humour happening. But
it was all in good taste, though. I mean, it wasn't...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, it was just for a laugh sort of thing. There were heaps of other shows also that were doing that sort of stuff as well at the time. Like, Aggro was a bit like that as well. And also, I'm not sure if you remember a show, it was a British show called Sooty. Yep. Sooty used to do a lot of that stuff as well. So, I mean, it's not like The Fells was the only show that did that stuff.
No, it wasn't. But, it'd be interesting to see how to go these days. I haven't really watched an episode for a while, but it'd be fun to go and have a look on YouTube and see look at some of the old episodes there.
Did you know the person that played the character, I think it was Joe, ended up almost becoming In Excess's frontman in Rockstar?
Yeah, Miguel. Yeah, occasionally get an email or send an email to Mig, and he's moved on. He's done a solo career now. He's involved in the Queen musical We Will Rock You. He's touring the world with that. So he's a very amazing performer.
So what do you do with yourself now? Like, do you still do much, like, besides in show business? Like you mentioned, you did Dolmio commercials and all that. But like, what's next? What do you think's next for you also in the future?
Well, I still do puppets. I now am a little bit more picky about jobs that I do, so I don't have to go lying under couches or spending too much time in uncomfortable positions to get certain shots.
You've definitely earned that right to be picky.
Yeah. So I tour these days with a fellow called Colin Buchanan. Colin worked on Play School.
I remember Colin Buchanan, yeah. He plays guitar, and he used to do that a lot on Play School. Yeah,
so Colin's got two sides to his career. He writes a lot of country music for guys like Lee Kernaghan and Troy Cassadaly. And he also does his kids stuff, which is Christian ministry-based work, and we tour around doing shows together. We're about to head off on Sunday to start a tour of the northern region of New South Wales for a week. So that's lots of fun. We just come back from the UK where we did 12 sell-out shows over there. So that's mainly what I do these days is touring and occasional commercial, and if other work comes up, that's how it tends to work. You get a call to say we've got an idea for a show, or you might do a pilot, or some of the contacts. I got to work on the Wolverine movie, doing the puppet in that one.
That's pretty epic.
So yeah, that was great. To be there were three of us that did the puppet in that one, which was the big bear. Apart from that, I spend my time. I work for a production company. I do a lot of photography these days. Having spent so much time in front of the camera, I learned a lot at the ABC, and I've sort of taken those skills to being behind the camera now myself.
What advice can you give to people that want to do the same career as you and enter that sort of industry?
The good old TV industry, moving into it. It's a fickle beast.
I myself am trying to make it in it as well as an actor, but that's another story.
Yeah,
but what?
It's a hard gig to get a job in, and sometimes the most talented and gifted people, you sort of think, well, how come they're on the sideline and they haven't got a Guernsey? But and there's other people I know that are incredibly talented and work incredibly hard, and they get that success. And in many ways, it's being there at the right place at the right time when they're looking for that person. And I think if you're doing auditions, just remember that it's really not you, that if you get rejected, it's not really you that's being rejected. It's what's being rejected is they're after a certain look and a certain way of doing things, and if you don't have that look or that way of projecting yourself, then they're just going to move on to find the next person who actually does. It's a hard industry, and it's an industry where I've seen people get, be on top of the heap one day, and then the next week, the show's being cut and they're down the bottom, and no one else is interested in them. So, it's always good to have something which is a reality check for you. So I've been fortunate. I've got a very great, loving family, and they're sort of my reality check. When you go off in the world of television, it's an unreal world to be in. Being away and having people speaking highly of you, and you come back, and this is what reality is. This is the reality is I've got a family I've got to look after and care for, and they very quickly bring you back to reality and deflate your head if your head's got too big from people telling you how good you are.
So before we go, we were all wondering if Modicliana could make an appearance, or if we could hear a little bit of Modicliana.
All right, hang on 1 second, I'll find her.
Oh, hello there, Matt. How are you?
I'm good, Modicliana. How are you?
Oh, I'm enjoying my retirement. That's what I'm doing.
Have you gotten around to playing bingo or lawn bowls or any of that stuff lately?
Oh, listen, Matt, I'm not that old.
all right.
I'm just sitting on a back porch, enjoying the sun.
All right.
Enjoying my fame.
All right. And how's Radis going lately in Mixie and Darren? Do you speak to them much?
Never. No, couldn't care less about that rat.
Oh, come on. Radis was awesome.
Radis? No, he's a pain in the backside, that boy. Anyway, no, apparently he's in a nursing home now. Lost his hair. He's as bald as a badger. Oh, I don't know, a badger's bald. Anyway, no, I don't really keep up with him. Mixie? No, she occasionally comes over, and I get her to look after my hair. I like my fur, give it a bit of a rub. She does that for me.
Do you still have your show on Feral TV, or has Kerry sort of given you the axe?
No. I don't know. Kerry didn't have very much to do with my Creature Features time, and you know what? There were too many stories about dogs, so I thought it was time for Creature Features to take a bit of a rest.
I know. I mean,
that's what it's been doing.
It just wasn't fair. All they ever did was dogs.
Yes, I know, Matt. There's no need to bring it up again.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Modicliana, and I hope you enjoy your retirement, and who knows, we might end up seeing you again. We'll never know.
Well, yes, maybe one day. Anyway, nice chatting with you guys.
Nice chatting with you too. See ya. And nice chatting with you as well, Mel. Thanks for your time.